Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Mark Foster Show. I want to emphasize that everything I am about to say in this podcast is simply my own personal viewpoint. It should not be taken in any way as authoritative. It only indicates my own reflections on the subjects that I am about to discuss. With that said, my own personal suggestion for what it's worth, and this is primarily directed at people living in the United States, although I think it could be applied to people in other countries as well, perhaps, especially Western countries, is that if you are able, get out. Get out now. Get out of the United States. As you must know, the United States has the highest rate of COVID-19 in the world. We are at the intersection of multiple crises. A medical crisis, an economic crisis, and a racial crisis. They are all converging. And I think that we are close to the point of where we will simply not be able to continue. Exactly when that will be, I'm not a prophet. I don't know. So all I can do is share with you my own feelings, thoughts, and meditations. And from everything that I can see, from all of the stories that I read in newspapers and magazines, from all of the information that I consume from various online sources, from all of the books that I am reading about current events, I just think that if you have any ability to leave the United States and perhaps other highly populated Western countries, and maybe even some Eastern countries like Japan and South Korea, that now would be a good time to do that. Speaking for myself, I really don't have the ability to do that. I am not independently wealthy. I am entirely dependent upon the salary that I receive from the college, even though in the fall I will be teaching all of my classes online. And that may very well be true in the spring semester as well. I still have to be in the vicinity of the college. If a student needs to meet with me, I need to be available. So I can't just pick up and move someplace else. I am basically tied to this area. Now, I like this area. I like Johnson County, Kansas. I think it's a fine place. The people here are generally very good people. I've been living here since 1993, which is longer than I've lived any place else in my life, although I am originally from New York City, born in Manhattan, raised in the Bronx and Queens, and then in my teens we moved out to Nassau County on Long Island, but I haven't lived in that area for a very long time. So I'm content here. It's not that I'm unhappy living in this area. Everything that I could possibly want is available to me in Johnson County, Kansas, suburban Kansas City. But I just don't think that this area, that this country, that this capitalist world system, that this present-day world order, that this realm of intersectional capitalism, that this plane of splitting, or as philosopher Roy Bhaskar called it, demi-reality, which was his term for disunity, splitting, division, egotism, and dualism, where everything is literally coming apart. The complete fragmentation of American society. And I think to somewhat lesser extents, perhaps, similar things are happening in other countries around the world. So that is basically the substance of what I wanted to say, and I realize it is not very cheery. Obviously, you are also free to disagree with me. It doesn't hurt my feelings when people disagree with me. As a professor, I am used to it. In fact, I even like it, because it gives me other ideas that I can reflect upon and perhaps change my mind. Most academics are look for disagreement. Don't avoid it, but actually look for disagreement, because that kind of challenge is what motivates us to acquire new knowledge. So I don't expect anybody to take what I say at face value. I don't take what I say at face value. I recognize that I might very well be incorrect. But, regardless, that is my view at this point. So, given all of the crises that are happening right now in this country, given the rapid spread of COVID-19, just this evening, President Donald Trump had a campaign rally at Mount Rushmore, which is Native American land, and many Native Americans were deeply disturbed that he was doing that. Mr. Trump began his presentation by condemning people who tore down a monument to the racist president, Andrew Jackson. That is literally how he began his speech at his campaign rally in front of Mount Rushmore. There were also fireworks, which in and of itself is quite dangerous, because there are woods in that area, and fireworks are really not safe. There could have been a fire there. Fortunately, there was not. But still, the tensions that were caused by Trump's speech are very, very high. And so the President of the United States is literally feeding into those tensions. Why? Well, I think because he feels, my impression, that that is his best route to being reelected. He knows that he has lost most voters, that most of the Republican suburban women that supported him 4 years ago have moved away from him, that most other groups, including an increasing number of evangelical Christians, have moved away from him. So he has the vote of middle-aged, working-class white men. Some middle-aged, working-class white men. Certainly not all. And it is those people, many of whom feel that the country that they once dominated, they think, has been taken away from them, and that Trump is giving it back to them. And so Mr. Trump is intentionally stoking racial tensions in this country. Shulki Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i Faith, as quoted in the book Citadel of Faith, warned Americans about the dangers of racism. And he said that at some point, the fearful weapons of destruction raining from the air and amassed by a powerful, ruthless, and vigilant enemy will wreak upon the most racist cities of the American nation. That passage, written in the early 1950s, was clearly referring to the Soviet Union. Well, there is no more Soviet Union. And I think that the United States received a kind of reprieve because of the civil rights movement of the 1950s and especially the 1960s, including Lyndon Johnson signing various civil rights legislation and the Voting Rights Act into law, and in the process losing the South to the Republican Party. Now, after all of those years, a time that I remember Lyndon Johnson. I remember his predecessor, John F. Kennedy, a bit. After all those years, we have elected Donald J. Trump. Just over 100 years following the visit of Abdu'l-Baha, the son of the prophet founder of the Baha'i Faith, to the United States, where he too warned Americans about the dangers of racism. My own view is that 2012, the 100th anniversary or the centenary of the visit of Abdu'l-Baha to the United States, ended a kind of 100-year respite. And then, 4 years later, Americans elected Donald J. Trump, one of the fathers of birtherism, an erroneous, disgusting ideology which claimed that the previous president, Barack Obama, was not really born in the United States. He was not born in Hawaii. He was born in Kenya or Indonesia or who knows where else. And so this man is now our president. Now, Trump knows that his standings in the polls are very, very low. That as of now, his challenger, former Vice President Joe Biden, has a better chance of winning. So Trump is doing whatever he thinks it will take to hold on to his base. And so if that means stoking the fires of racism, so be it, I suppose. So again, I think that this is a very hazardous time for anybody living in the United States. I don't think that the United States will be around that much longer. Again, that is just my own personal opinion, but I don't think that the United States will be around much longer. This is Mark signing off for the Dr. Mark Foster Show. Have a good one.